Okay, so we are on. So thank you everyone for coming tonight. And for those of you that are joining us live streaming, I do want to point out that there's a packet of that we'll be going over tonight on our website, which is sbac.ca.gov. And you'll go to the workshops and trainings page that's under grants. So if you want to look at that workshop or the packet, please do that. And so right now I would like to introduce Amy Kweskin, and she's joining us from the Center for Cultural Innovation.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. So, yes, I'm Amy Kweskin from the Center for Cultural Innovation. We have two offices. Our primary office is in LA, and then I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area office, and they sent me all around the state, even down to your area, so a little mysterious. And I'm here to tell you about a couple of grants that are statewide opportunities. But I wanted to make this a more interactive session. It's really important to me that I'm not just talking at you and you are having the information flow over your head, but I have some interactive opportunities that you can participate in if you choose to. And I believe in professional development all the time, so I wanted to make this worth your time. So whatever you contribute is going to make this more interesting. Okay, so the Center for Cultural Innovation, CCI, has anyone heard of it before? New to anyone? Okay. I joined the staff about 7 or 8 weeks ago, but previously, actually, I was involved in the organization as a trainer. Has anyone heard of our Business of Art program or our book? I'll show it to you in a minute. Okay. So we have a book called The Business of Art, and it's primarily focused on development of your business for artists, but we also teach it to arts managers and board members. And my chapter that I wrote in this book is strategic. So I really love strategic. So I will show you the book in a moment, what it looks like, in case you're interested. And then we also do that training around the state. Okay. So I'm going to be familiarizing myself with all the equipment. Okay. I also found images, so this won't be a boring PowerPoint when we do use it. So my intended outcomes for this session are to drive you forward. So I always believe in, even if you're affiliated with one or more organizations, you have to know where you're coming from. So we'll talk about your intentions. Priority issues that we've discovered or researched and uncovered across the state in a research that we did in partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts. And I'll show you that report in a minute. And those priority issues are what we're focused on in terms of our granting opportunities right now. And then force fields. So these priority issues are about change. Whenever there's change, there's forces for change, and then there's forces against change. I'm sure you've all lived those forces, even if they're just in your head, right? Can I really be an artist? Is this the right career for me? Is arts management the way I should be doing this? So we're going to talk about the force fields and then the grants that would help you as opportunities to develop your career and also to develop some shifts. We're looking for, since we're innovation, we're looking for you to create some ripples in the way arts are managed in California. Okay, so this is the interactive part. You choose to participate. So has anyone ever seen the life stages model? It might not have been illustrated this way, but have you come across it? So this is used in psychology and social work, and it's kind of obvious, but what I'm going to do is walk through it so that you can get a sense of what it means, the life stages on the life cycle related to your career or an arts venture, arts organization. And I'm doing this because I want you to take some time to think of all the different hats, because I imagine that everyone in this room has more than one identity, right? There's probably this, maybe a board member, audience member, maybe an arts manager. So what you're going to be doing is identify this version over here. You're going to be taking sticky notes, writing your name on them, and showing us where you think you are in your career evolution or your organizational evolution. So I have sticky notes that you can pass around and pens right here. So here we go. I'll attempt to talk slowly. This is in your packet. So if you wanted to look in your packet, it's the second page, it's on the back of the first page. I think this is a great tool to use when you're mentoring, bringing up junior staff, thinking about your own career, and also if you're consulting. Is anyone here an arts consultant? Could be in the future. So the idea stage. The idea stage here I have illustrated with seeds. And as creative people, we have many ideas, right? That's what makes the arts people creative and exciting. And your competitive advantage is that business people really have a lot of ideas. They know how to develop the business side and the structure, but they're looking for creative arts people to be like, oh, wow, that person has a lot of ideas. So the idea stage in your career, it might be at any point, it might be that you're concluding one career and you're like, I have an idea that I want to do something different. Or it might be the very beginning of your career when you're in high school or college. And so the idea stage is that you start to explore the possibilities. You look around and see what classes are available, what careers are available. If you apply this to an arts organization, the idea stage is people coming together saying, we like to dance, we like to do theater, we want to put on a street festival. Let's give it a try. So the idea stage is the precursor to the startup. Startup is when you start to invest resources. So investing resources means for your career, I am going to take that class. I'm going to do some informational interviews. I'm going to start to explore the possibilities, but investing some time and some money. Has anyone started up an arts organization here? Yeah, okay. This is where you start to put the sweat equity. The pedal hits the metal, right? So this might be you're maxing out your credit card, you're maxing out your friend's credit card, you're paying people for contributions, you're donating your time. This is when you start to invest resources. Okay. Moving up to ground and grow, I think many arts organizations, is in ground and grow, which is a fine place to be. There's no one place that's better than another on this evolution. But ground and grow is when the roots start to develop. So you've planted this seed that you've nurtured, and the roots start to develop, and that's infrastructure, systems. That's easy to think about when it comes to an organization. So, we're going to collect people's email addresses because we now have a way to save those addresses. We can solicit those people for contributions. We have some structure in place. The leaves are the external communications, which I call marketing communications. So you have the ability then to message out, right? So you're bringing people in, data in, and messaging back out. In your career, it might be that you're at the point when you're like, I have a body of work that I can try to shop around. Maybe I can perform around the country. Maybe my images can be in an exhibition. It could travel. So this is where you start to have the investment of resources is having a yield. The reason I say many arts organizations dwell there is because often you get a grant, like we got a grant, woohoo, and you start moving up, you're like, we can afford to hire somebody to do this. And then you spend the grant and you're like, oh no, we're sliding back down the hill, right? And so you can relate to this. And that's completely natural. And some artists, in particular, I work with a lot of dance artists, come on in. Dance artists actually, in my experience, like to hang out in that curve because they feel like, hey, if I hit maturity, maybe my work is boring, right? Does anyone have that feeling? If you hit maturity, you're like, I've jumped the curve, right? I've gone over the top. There's nothing wrong with hitting maturity. Maturity is the idea that you can weather any storm. You're like, okay, I've got the resources I need. So in your career, maturity is, there's things happening at my organization, opportunities, I'm ready for them because I have the skills and the training, or the organization's ready to develop their staff. With an artist, it's like, I might not have an exhibition right now, but I have a body of work that I'm developing, and I have an exhibition lined up for a year from now. Everything's flowing, and you have lots of fruits of your labor. Decline. Okay, decline is when something happens that you can't control, internally or externally. So externally, it might be, wow, people were coming to our exhibition, and now they don't come to our exhibition. They were coming to our chalk festival, and they don't come anymore. You can't control it. You don't know what it is necessarily. It might be that you're no longer the hot thing, or there's a competitor out there, or people are satisfying that need in another way. When that comes to your career, decline might be, I keep moving throughout this sector, and I keep hitting the same job, and I'm kind of plateaued. Something's got to change because I'm starting to slide down that slope to disillusion. But you notice there's a turnaround. And turnaround is the opportunity to take the best of the seeds of your apple, whatever resonated with you. You're like, you know what? I love doing this, and it's a little bit different, and people said that they liked when I did that, I'm going to come back around and I'm going to move back into startup phase, which is completely fine. So you could actually have a turnaround at any point. Your turnaround can happen when you're in startup. You might say, this seemed like a good idea, but actually we're going to go back to the idea phase. If you don't do a turnaround, you go into disillusion or dissolve, which is fine. It might be the thing that you say, okay, my career is done. My real is done. I'm now going to focus on my arts career. Does this resonate with you? Anybody in there? Yeah, okay. So here's how we're going to introduce ourselves. And if you're not comfortable using the microphone or coming up here, this is completely voluntary. But what I'm going to have you do is take your Post-it notes that hopefully everybody got some, and you're going to write as many Post-it notes as you need, your name on them for as many hats as you wear. So if you're an artist, put Amy Artist, or you could just put your name. And you might have 4 or 5 Post-it notes. When you're ready, come on up here to my slightly falling off the wall, but we will fix it, diagram. And you're going to introduce yourself to us and put up your Post-its. Because we want to know who you are and where you are in your career. And this is how we're going to get to know your community. And we'll look at the ecosystem, see where everybody's at. And there's no right or wrong, and we're not judging you. It's a safe space that's being... There's no judging, except for the people that are sitting at home judging. Okay. Yeah, 1 Post-it note per. So if you're wearing 4 different hats, write 4 different Post-its. And when you're ready, come on up. Again, this is not an obligation, but we'd love to hear from you. And then tell us who you are and each of your Post-it notes. And in that way, we'll learn about your involvement. And it's fine if you want to include other things up here like grandparent or new mom or anything like that. You ready? Come on up. Okay, I'm going to hand you the microphone.
Hi, my name's Lisa Travell, and I 3 things that I as right off. That is 1 is that I'm an artist. 2 is that I'm a healer. So now, yeah, and I think probably at this stage here in the idea, in the coming together of what I'm doing as far as integrating healing and art. I have been, should I explain a little bit? Okay, just briefly, I do printmaking and painting, and I have over the years done chakra, mantra themes with my artwork, and now it's continuing to evolve as far as what I feel is energy work and visual presentation. So my idea is to do videos with a guided relaxation component that can be played in hospitals, wellness centers, offices, places where people tend to be stressed out. They themselves could watch it, or family members can. And yeah, I'm really, really loving the idea of having a moving visual presentation of my artwork that could be shown on a screen. So before it goes into decline, I mean, I'd say I'm sort of here with all of it now. But I think I've been here for a while. So now I need to sort of, well, I just want to reach out. Thank you.
And as you're talking, you will want to constantly cycle through all these, right? So if you're in maturity, you still want to have ideas coming up. Who else would like to share? Go. Okay.
Hey, hello, I'm Viviana, and I'm the president and founder of the Flamenco Arts Festival. Our event is in September, the end of September, and what we do is we bring a major flamenco company from Spain to Santa Barbara, and they do live performances, they do lectures, they do workshops, and then we party a lot. So We're a really small board. We only have 3 board members, so we all do everything. But I feel like we're right in here all the time. So I'm president, I'm the grant writer, I'm the idea person, and the hold it together person. So, yeah.
Thank you. Who else would like to share? I see Post-it notes ready to go. Come on up. Like free advertising.
Let's see, my name is Alma Hernandez, and I work as a representative for Supervisor Hartman. But you know, my main things and my role is I am a community builder, so I'll put that here. But I just started, so I'm going to be here somewhere. Also, I am a mom. Oops. And I'm here in my momship. And I am I've come up with creative ideas to, you know, do community building. So I'll put that here too. And oops. And then last but not least, I love the arts and I love to, you know, be creative in the work that I do, but I wouldn't necessarily call myself an artist. So I'll just say I'm a creative communicator. I'm in creative communication. So just, you know, I love to, you know, create different ways of communicating, and, you know, arts is one of those ways. And so I'll put that here because, you know, I just made that up.
It's great we inspired one new career. Handing you the mic.
My name's John D. Herrera. Just a local writer, artist. I got writer and artist. I guess, you know, I'm just past 50, so I should be a mature writer and a mature artist. So I'm just, you know, individual artist. I have a little space down in the Funk Zone. And I just happened to see the ad in the Independent tonight. I was interested in, you know, maybe there's some kind of information about individual. The first book, it was a novel, and the second book, I was a substitute teacher for the city of Santa Barbara during the aughts, and I did a translation of Hamlet and Macbeth. So, and then the book I'm working on now is another novel.
Anyone else like to share? Oh, okay, cool.
I'm Hannah, for those of you that don't know me, and I work for the County Office of Arts and Culture. And so I would say my role with that as a government employee and put us at Ground and Grow. I also used to be an executive director of a nonprofit, transitioned to government work, so I would say I dissolved that. I'm also a community member. I actually live up in Santa Maria, and I feel like there's a good group of people coming together with ideas, and I have ideas for North County. And then also a mom. I don't think I'm mature at that yet, so Ground and Grow there.
Anyone else? Yes, go for it. Okay, and then Samuel.
Right. All right, so hi, I'm Rachel. So as an artist, I guess I think I'm pretty caught in the idea phase. Like, have a lot of ideas, but have some hang-ups on action. I'm with Art from Scrap, so I started working there at the beginning of this year. And I think as my position there, I'm kind of like right in between the two. Like, they have a lot of resources and they've been around for a long time, so I am hesitant to say startup, but I think there's more time going into the arts programming, so we're grounding and growing and also coming up with new things that are starting, which is exciting.
Is it to Samuel? Because I saw you getting up.
So my name is Samuel Duarte. from Santa Maria, work in Guadalupe, and I'm a dad to a 4-year-old and 6-year-old boys. And I'm with Hannah on this also. I'm also an artist and poet, writer, and student actually, creative writing. And I also do community engagement. I use the arts to engage the community. And I think we've done pretty good in this part. Out in Guadalupe. And I'm an executive director at a nonprofit out there in Guadalupe. So, thank you.
Just a few hats. Okay. Would anyone else like to share? Great, Terry.
I am a graphic designer. I've been for a long time. Artist. I always feel like a startup. What is real different with the realize television. So when somebody asked me what I was, I creative sure. And to change the world. So I thought at least that would bring up a conversation, right? That's a startup. Well, it's actually. Then I started working at artists, teens. So that really.
I'm Andy Gartner, and I am an exhibit designer for museums and events. And I've been doing this for a long time, but we're new to Santa Barbara, so I love this community. So that would be, I think, maturity. I've recently become part of the Collaborative Arts Workshop, trying to unite different arts organizations in the community and sharing space, so that's been very exciting. So that would be that. And now I'm trying to foster a program I'm doing, besides working with different arts organizations, but also music, called Music in the Garden, which involves teaching nature-based education with art, music, all the disciplines in schools and also outside of school for different age groups. So that would be a growing thing.
Okay, Karen.
Okay, I'm a mother of a dog, horse, kitty, and son. I'm a daughter, and my mother's taken ill, and we don't know how long she's going to live, so I will no longer be a daughter soon. For my day job, I'm a medical consultant. I'm also a homeowner and contractor, always fixing up the house. I'm an artist who wants to go big and public. So, got great ideas, but everything gets in the way. I'm also a gypsy traveler, and I go on the road whenever I can. Woman seeking love, so that's an idea. And I'm a board member of an art gallery and medical journal.
That's fantastic. It's like a personal ad. You've met her here. It's a personal ad. This is great. So introduce.
Okay, I'm speaking for Ann Moore, who is watching on the internet. She's watching the live streaming, and so she wanted me to add that she is a startup. She's doing a startup business called the Wandering Art Cart. And that's in Santa Maria. She is in the Dissolve area with her gallery board. And she has lots of ideas for the community in arts. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to share? Oh, great. Okay. We're building a little ecosystem here, so it's good to hear your voices and see you're smiling.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Julie McLeod, and I'm the founder, executive director of Art Without Limits. So basically, I'm a creative thinker. I consider myself an artist because I have been brought up in the arts, particularly dance, but all the arts, and I still do a lot of creative thinking. So I think I'm somewhere around here. That's my motivation. This is two-part. This is part of a community here, very big part. Community is part of it too. And what our organization does, Art Without Limits, is we mentor one-on-one emerging artists who are highly talented, well-trained, ready to go pro and saying, oh my God, what do we do? How do I make this happen? And we pair them for up to a year. There is no charge for this mentorship. They're paired with professional artists that are in their field. And there's no charge. The mentee or the emerging artist needs to give back to their mentor, needs to give back to Art Without Limits, and needs to pay forward to the next generation. And we have one of our mentors here too today. Very nice. And so that has been a culminating kind of catalyst for me and for the community. And I'm going to put myself right around here. And that's community mentor, build artists, because I think that's, and I'm going to put that way up here because that's what we have succeeded so well in. I'm a mom. It's my daughter. I am now at the point where I am needing to retire, getting into my 8th decade, and passing the baton on to my daughter. So I'm mentoring my daughter. She's mentoring me, learning a lot from her. And I'm not going to walk out the back door and say goodbye forever. I'm going to stay on probably as a cover mother for a little while, wherever I'm needed. But this is an exciting kind of a place to be. And even though I put myself in some ways here with this, I'd also like to put myself here.
It's dynamic and ever changing. Oh, good. We're going to get the daughter. Okay. The other side of the story.
I'm Jody McLeod, her daughter, as you know. And I'm a big idea person. And so I'm gonna put this here. I'm always bringing up ways to make things better, quicker, whatnot. And I started out as I was on the board of Art Without Limits, and then I went to treasurer. I have bookkeeping experience. And I now co-director of Art Without Limits. And as she said, I'm in training to be an executive director, which is still about here. Well, move these down a little. And I also, at the same time, I do bookkeeping for my sister's business, Bird Store Menagerie. And that's probably getting close to this since I'm going to executive director. But yeah, it's definitely a journey, and I'm definitely climbing. So stay there. also, she didn't tell you about that we fiscally sponsor people that are in need of grants, for the artists that need grants or that can't get them because they don't have a 501c3. They can go through us, charge 7%. We do some of the work, but not a lot that the major ones do. They charge 40%. So yeah, if you're looking to get a grant, come to us. We can help fiscal sponsor you.
That's perfect. Actually, that's a setup for later because I'm going to talk about fiscal sponsorship. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Here it is, your arts ecosystem. This is great. Thank you so much for sharing. And every community that I go to, of course, it looks different. And I love that there's so much maturity in this community around your career and your arts. That's fantastic. So we should just leave this on the wall here as sort of an artifact of our session. Okay, so what I'd like to do is transition from that conversation to figure out who's in the room and all the different hats that you're wearing. And now talk about another tool that I like to use. And this is going to lead us into talking about the grants that we have. So you'll see here on the screen that, and you have this in your packet, this is the formula that I use for talking about creating a vision, values, and mission. Who here has had to go through the process of creating vision, your mission? It's confusing, right? And you're like, I can't figure out A from Z. So since I teach it so much, I had to come up with how can I explain it so that I can differentiate it and people can actually going on. So let me just see if I can do view full screen mode. Okay, that's actually worse for people on TV, but here we go. The formula is vision plus values equals mission. So you'll see up on the screen that there's the sun, and that's the vision. Thinking about yourself, your vision is your greatest intention. It's your beacon of light. It's that shining star that drives you forward. The values are blended in that it might be that one of your values is your vision. You believe so strongly in one of your values. The values are the guiding beliefs. It's what moves you forward. So organizationally, hopefully your values, if you've developed an organization, the values match. If you're working with one or more organizations, hopefully your values match. We've probably all had the experience where you're like, everything seems right. This should be the ideal situation, but something's not quite right. Oh, it's actually our values don't match. We might have a shared vision, but how we're going about getting there just doesn't necessarily jive sometimes. Or you might meet somebody even at this session and be like, wow, we have this strong resonance. It's clear that we have a similar or maybe different visions, but our values are so in sync, we need to collaborate in some way. The mission is the unique pathway, and this is also a strategic planning tool. So the mission is this triangle that leads up to the vision. So there might be many organizations, I use a non-arts example, that believe that every child should have access to clean water, right? That's a universal vision. Each of those organizations or individuals have probably some shared values, but certainly a unique pathway, a unique mission, a unique way of getting on that road to accomplish that intention. The reason I have this up here, and I'm going to ask you to reflect on it, you don't have to get up here and reflect on it, but how in your seats, is that if you're really clear about your vision, then I believe you put that out into the world and people move towards you. Okay, Julie agrees, right? So if you're really clear about your vision, then you're able to collaborate, you're able to obtain grants, you're able to get exhibitions because you're super clear. And it's part of your elevator pitch, perhaps even. So what I'm going to ask you to do is take a few minutes to talk to a buddy. And it would be nice, you could turn to the person next to you, but if you wanted to move, and people at home can do this on their own, move around and meet somebody you don't know, or you thought, that person's interesting to me. I really want to talk to them for a couple of minutes. If you don't want to share, just be a good listener, be a coach, right? So this is what I want you to do, is just have a conversation around vision, values, mission. And it could be, hey, this is what mine is, or this is what my organization's is, or this is what I see for Santa Barbara. Okay? So we're actually going to take 10 minutes, and hopefully you can dig in a little bit with a partner, and there can be 3 of you in a group, but this is our chance. Now you know where this ecosystem is of the people in the room. Go find somebody that you're interested in. Make a friend. Okay. become a group. Yeah, we,
Okay. John.
have a seat. You don't mind if I talk to you? Okay. We'll talk quietly. But this way people at home have something that they can talk about. So tell me, what's your vision? You seem to have a clear intention with your writing.
Yes, the vision, I guess, as far as the writing part, is to complete that. I have 4.5 years into it. I completed a writer residency out in New Mexico, 2015. That was part of the.
So what's your vision in terms of your greatest intention, either why you do writing or what you write about or what you hope to do with your career as a writer?
You know, as working for the city of Santa Barbara for a couple years as a substitute teacher, just really, I don't know, I kind of, part of that had an impression on me that a small novel or novella or something together some key ideas that if that book then fell into the hands of someone who didn't have an education, that they could get it would pull into focus a lot of things. You know, so that's kind of the goal of the novel, is to try and leave something that helps someone else understand this incredible thing we're all experiencing. So that's what the writing. That's the goal, is to term help make.
That's excellent. Okay, so I was going to ask you, if you were to reach your vision, your greatest intention, what would the world be like?
Well, I didn't mention that I'm also an activist. So, it kind of blends into the artist aspect. So I do a lot of activism, and when you asked earlier, you said, you know, has anyone been involved in creating a vision and a mission? And there was a political group in 2011. They called it Occupy Wall Street. That went on. So I was with a group of people working in one part of the Occupy movement. We were developing a strategy to bring about a federal convention. There's a provision in the Constitution for the federal convention of the states. A lot of people have discussed it for years and said, okay, should we do it? Should we not? It's dangerous. And through that work, now today there's about half the national group talking about a convention. In fact, the state of Arizona on March 30th issued the call, Convention of the States, and that's the first such call since 1860. So this thing about trying to bring about a convention itself, some other groups, we are getting closer to that. In fact, just having Arizona issue the call for a convention, really significant step. So,
Sounds like this is one of the pathways that you're taking towards your vision. So this is one of the, it's one of the mission paths you're taking. So it's activism, another is writing your book. And it sounds like one of your core values is education. Other core values that drive you forward?
Gosh, it seems like everything comes down to education, because if you can get the right ideas out there, then that's where the real change happens. So in some sense, that's the core thrust behind all my intentions, to help educate.
It's great, because what you've done is you've identified layers. Your vision is maybe reaching your fullest, everyone should reach their fullest potential or have access to education. And then through that, you've had identified that with education, people can move forward and be more aware. And so your avenues of activism, writing, sound like they have an education focus. Like it's one of your strongest values has moved into your vision.
Yeah, and the artistry, I guess, comes in, for anyone who has a vision. Is the artistry is trying to get across a bunch of expository information, or a bunch of information that would be kind of difficult to process, put it across in an entertaining way. And I find a novel, that's one of the art forms where that's possible. Mix entertainment with information.
That's great. So you have the your artistic voice.
Right. It helps with vision.
That's fantastic. So do you have any advice for up-and-coming authors?
For as far as a book, yes. I have something I've developed over the years that I call the 1 hour rule. And that is when you should be writing and you have time for you to write, but for one reason or another, that as a writer, suddenly you're starting to think, well, should I do the laundry, or should I go, take this, or suddenly your mind starts making up excuses of why you need to do something else other than write. And so the 1 hour rule is when you find yourself having difficulties getting down to your task, is to get everything out of the way and sit down and say, I'm not moving an hour. Even if I don't write anything, I'm not moving an hour. And every time I've found before that hour's up, I'm writing.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm inspired. Okay. So everybody take 1 more minute. 1 more minute of sharing. This is great. I'm seeing lots of great networking happening here. Okay, we're going to come back together as a full group. Who would like to share? Who would like to share what came up? Anybody? Would any of you like to share what came up for you? Would you like to share anything? You're still networking? First you have to get gossip, and then you have to... Okay. Would anyone like to share? Kim or Andy, or would anyone like to share? Okay, I'm going to move forward. You're still networking. Okay, let me tell you about a grant that Center for Cultural Innovation has that can help you with your career evolution. So this is in your packet. This is available online, and I also have it up here on the screen. It's called the CALI Grant, C-A-L-I, California Arts Leaders Investments Grant. We have quick grants. This one is available every single month. So there's a monthly deadline. And this grant is an opportunity to apply for funds, to be able to develop your voice, develop your career, and it has a particular focus of reaching out into the field at large. So this would underwrite the opportunity to work with a coach, work with a consultant, attend a conference, intention of having a stronger voice in where you're going with your career and impacting others. So I heard Jody and Julie are going through a leadership transition. Maybe they want to work with a consultant. This is a moment of transition. They could apply for funds to work with a consultant. So it's a $1,000 grant. To obtain this grant, there needs to be affiliation with a nonprofit arts organization, but it could also be under fiscal sponsorship. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes, since we have a fiscal sponsor, which is actually Jody. Okay, so this grant used to be called the Next Generation Grant, and it used to be specific to an age, but really emerging in your career is a state of mind. So we've taken away any age restrictions, and it's for people who are, and I'll scroll through here, it's a Hewlett-funded grant, or a Hewlett Foundation. So it's people who are currently work or affiliated with a California nonprofit. They live in California as a resident, and this is the one where have been employed for fewer than 10 consecutive years in a particular role. So what I heard out here was that people are transitioning. So you're transitioning into a new role. So you might have been 10, 20 years doing one thing, and now you're a new iteration of yourself. So that's emerging. Okay. And when you apply for our grants, we actually have a portal, and you sign into that portal. And to be eligible for this grant, you just need to enter some data so that you're part of our system, part of our cohort. And so all that is available on our website. I made a slide so I could show you our website, right? The address of our website is www.cciarts.org. This is on the handouts, and I also have cards available. So you can head out to our website to get on all of these. Okay. So let me come back here and show you some some publications. So I mentioned that we have a book called The Business of Arts. I'm not here trying to sell it to you today. I'm just telling you that it's an available resource. It's also available, you can get it through us or on Amazon. And this is a companion piece that goes with our Business of Art training series. So if you are sort of like, I got the art thing down, but I'm trying to figure out the business thing, it's a great book to pick up. And we're going to be revamping it and putting out a new edition in the next 18 months or so. Oops. Oh, I just turned off the screen. Okay. More specifically, I'm going to be talking about this report called Creativity Connects. So Creativity Connects is a report that CCI researched and compiled with the National Endowment for the Arts. A link to this report is available in the agenda, and you'll notice the agenda has all kinds of links on it so that you can access all this content. The reason I'm showing you this report is that we convened in January in San Jose a session called Future Arts Forward. And actually, a couple of people in the room were at that session. So Samuel was at that session and other people in the room. And we are, as an innovation organization, always trying to figure out what's the next iteration of the arts and arts management. And this report told us that there are some trends, some changes that are happening in the field that need some energy behind them. And that's when I'm going to talk about force fields. But I'm going to put Samuel on the spot and say, do you want to say anything about your experience at Future Arts Forward?
Yeah, we had some really amazing conversations, particularly on how, as professionals in in really whatever field anyone is involved in. Art can be an integral part of that movement. So the reason it resonated with us is because us as a nonprofit, traditionally service-oriented nonprofit, we had been moving away from solely that purpose and using art as an integral part of the service field. In other words, we've been using art to engage the community, to be involved in policy change. And so art has been a doorway in our community for that engagement, because art seems to be, I think, less intimidating for folks than if you start talking politics right away or policy change. So that was part of the conversation that really resonated with us out there in San Jose. So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so that convening, Hewlett Foundation was in attendance at that convening, and they heard people saying, we want to see real change in how arts businesses are managed and how arts is accessed. That we're just seeing either people complaining, arts, just give us more money, but we don't know how to speak a different language to help people understand why contributing to the arts would be helpful and why the arts are important, why that vision is important. So Hewlett has given us money to re-grant, and we're a re-granting organization, to go across the state, and this is why I'm out here this month going across the state, to find people that can collaborate on proposals for creating a ripple of change in the arts. And so now I'm going to show you the priority areas that came out of this report. So, we're technology challenged, but we will get there. Okay, so here are the priority areas, and let me just put it into full screen mode. Darn. Tomorrow. Okay, we'll just put it right here like this. Okay. So what's come out of the report is inclusion and equity, intergenerational and multicultural leadership, new financial and sustainability models. I don't know, Samuel, do these resonate with you? Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? It's like, these are the areas of concern. So this is where shifts are happening, and we're interested, our Investing in Tomorrow grant is interested in how do we encourage more of this shift. And with every one of these shifts, there's forces for that change, and then there's forces against that change. Like, things might be better like that, but that's uncomfortable, so we're not going to we're going to push against you in doing that. So what I want to do is give you a definition of what each of these are. Okay. This is available in your packet, but I wanted to show you large, but you do have it available in your packet. So inclusion and equity, what we discovered area of concern is that what we're looking for are proposals that reshape the arts sector to be more distributive of resources, products, services, and opportunities that are fair and equitable, inclusive. So how do people that don't normally have access to something get access? And there's all kinds of ways that might be running through your mind, right? So it might be you as an individual artist. It might be you as a collective of artists. It might actually be the community that you're serving with your art. We're interested in proposals of projects that will happen in a 1-year period that will create some sort of dialogue, some sort of conversation, some sort of change, a shift. So this is meant to be an experiment, right? Your opportunity to try something that you wouldn't normally try. So these grants are a ripple, but with somewhat of a pebble. It's a $7,500 grant, and $7,500 is enough to make that ripple. It's not going to change the world, but it's going to create a conversation. It's going to encourage people to look at things differently. So we have inclusion and equity. The next we have is intergenerational and multicultural leadership. And this one's a little bit self-explanatory, but shape how arts organizations can better fulfill their missions through intergenerational and multicultural leadership. And I keep talking about Julie and Jody. There's intergenerational leadership happening right there. but also for people that are coming up into the field, they might feel like, I have something to contribute, but I can't get to the table. I'm behind the scenes. Other people might be like, I've been in this field for 30 years and I still can't get to the table, right? So this grant is meant for people who have an idea and don't have a voice, who have a concept but have never been able to put it forward. Okay, I'll talk more about that. And you can already be starting to do these kinds of things, and you're like, this is just a little more of a seed that's going to get this to happen for us. And then new financial and sustainability models is we're looking for proposals that innovate how arts and culture organizations can become more sustainable by innovating or responding to new potential markets and demands. This one's a little more abstract. What does that mean? This is looking at new business models. So we heard mention of a 501c3, we heard mention of fiscal sponsorship. Is there possibility of a collective? Is there a possibility of some other model? And this is an opportunity to kind of explore those options. Can we do something different? It's also the possibility of creating a different kind of marketplace for art. So the commerce of art. Yeah. So inclusion, equity, intergenerational, multicultural leadership, and then new financial and sustainability models. So what the other component of this grant that's different is that sometimes when you apply for grants, it's like writing a graduate thesis or signing for a loan, right? So our grants are simpler, and we are not looking for a fine-tuned grant writer grant. Like you've hired somebody and they've written this grant for you, and boy, they're clear, but you're not even sure anymore what it's about because they've rewritten it for you. This is about your voice. So there needs to be a lead on this grant proposal. And this lead, we're really hoping that people collaborate across organizations. This lead person has to be somebody who's never or hasn't had a voice yet. So this is their opportunity to cut their teeth on grant writing. And we're going to be looking at the essence of their proposal as opposed to, they're not speaking grant speak. We're not interested in that. We're interested in the ability to get a point across. And so the submissions are, the questions, and they're also in your packet. You'll look at, there's the second set of guidelines. The questions have 150-word answers, 400-word answers. Like, those are considerably smaller than other grant applications where they want pages and pages. We're like, get to it, get to the point. So it's harder to do that sometimes because you can't hide behind language. And the grant will be, the panelists that will be deciding these grants are panelists from, we're working on finding people from across the state. So these are people that are within the communities that we're visiting and beyond, to make sure that it's not just people who are disconnected sitting in a room trying to figure out what's being proposed here. No, it's representatives of people who are looking at these issues in our community. So that's also something that's a little bit different. The deadline for this is July 12th, which is kind of soon. And the way I like to work is I like to think of a lot of ideas. You know, we love the idea stage, and then I let it kind of simmer and ferment and figure out which ideas are kind of percolating, getting a little bacterial growth on them, and then talking to other people. So you've got people in this room that you might feel like, we had a little connection here. Is there something we could propose? Is there something we can put forward? So what I want to do is take a couple of minutes and look at or talk about what are some of the forces for change and what are some of the forces against change. And this takes some thinking about, but if you have some thoughts about any of these topics and a force that you're recognizing for change or against change, we'd love to hear it. I'll put one out there, and it might not even just be, it might not fall into one of these categories, but when I've been going around the state, people have said the voice in my head that says art is not a career, right? That's a force against change, right? A force for change, deadening that voice, I don't know, pursuing, finding a network, looking for affirmation, getting a mentor, those kinds of things. Would anyone like to contribute to creating a sense of what forces you're recognizing? And they can be in your community, they might be in the state, it could be national, international. And I'm putting you on the spot. You didn't prepare. Or questions. Okay, well, hold on. I'm bringing you the mic.
Change and Forces Against Change for the organization, or just in relation to the grant, the $7,500 grant you were just talking about? It's
Can be a force of change that you're recognizing related to these topics grant-wise, or your own world, or you're seeing in the community. Do we have access to resources?
first thing I kind of think about is National Endowment for Arts, how underfunded it is. So I guess forces against change would be forces in the Congress.
Yeah, this is a good point. So the National Endowment for the Arts and National Endowment for the Humanities, the threat of getting funding cuts, that's a major force against change that has a ripple. The ripple effect is that that comes down to a state level, and then also their own grants that they give out. Other thoughts?
I think that comes close to people who are used to funding the arts, are looking at the economy and the concept of are arts important or not important. And I know which way I go, but and most of the people in this room. But I think people are afraid. They're very much afraid. And they're looking for, where's the job that's going to pay to keep the milk and the bread and butter on the table? Well, I can think of them, but whether other people are thinking that way, I don't know. And being such a believer in the arts and the creativity and creative thinking, and artists don't sit on what they are and what they're doing. They look for something to change. For instance, when we start a mentorship, they'll set up their goals. But if they don't change, I challenge them because they're not being creative thinkers.
That's really nice. So a force for change can actually be a challenge. Oh, Hannah has.
I was just going to say that I think these topics are almost a force against change. They're very intimidating. I mean, especially like new financial sustainability models is probably like terrifying to most people in this room. And in a way, I kind of want to be a force for change for you in that I have applied for one of their grants before working for the county. And it is a very easy process. And CCI is a great organization to work with. So really take to heart what she's saying about the being new to this and taking a risk and going for it. It's not complicated. That's the beauty of it, is that you're only 150, 400 words, which is sometimes very difficult to do, but that's what they want. They want new people in the sector doing this. So don't be intimidated by these very somewhat difficult topics to grasp.
I've avoided saying, but they're really heady, right? They're like, I know. So last night I was in Riverside, and the head of the Riverside Arts Council said to the group, you know, even just submitting a grant, if it's funded or not, you're putting yourself in front of other people and they're going to take notice, right? So it's like a little bit of marketing, in fact. So the process of writing it and collaborating and getting together people that are like-minded or not like-minded, which is another way you can approach this, because if you only have like-minded people at your table, is that change? No, we learned that, right? So you can't be in a bubble. So this, even just having that conversation is going to create change. And let me show you some samples, some examples. And these are in the packet. Okay, there's a lot of text, and I apologize for that, but I'll focus on different ones. So what's interesting about this application is that we want you to address at least one of these categories. And so personally, what I would be looking for is, what's this itch, or this itch that I have been wanting to scratch, and does it fit into one of these categories? You can submit a proposal that hits 2 or 3 categories, but that doesn't win you like that bing, 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 bing. That's, the panel's going to say, really, this person, this group thinks that they can do all 3? We'd rather have a really strong one category than try to hit all 3 of them. Okay, but these examples, look at the different iterations. So on the top left corner, we have inclusion and equity, and this is still a little bit heady, but address issues of arts workers' rights with a non-arts organization and present your outcomes at a professional conference. The reason it says there, present your outcomes at a professional conference, is that even if you do something internally in your organization, it's not going to create change outside. So there has to be some way to message or bring out beyond your organization the change. Okay. The next thing is become, at the top right-hand side, new financial and sustainability models. Become an impact investor to influence the evolution of quantifying, this sounds really like consultant speak, I'll explain it. Quantifying social return on investment and present findings in a podcast. I added a little podcast. Okay. Impact investor. Has anyone heard this? It's buzzy. Would anyone want to take a stab at what the impact investing is? I'll do it for you. Okay. So impact investing is a concept that's taking hold in that it's not just, I'm going to give you money and I expect a return on my investment, so I want a yield of a certain amount of money back plus my investment. No, it says my investment in you or your art is going to have some sort of impact on the planet or the people. So it's that triple bottom line. So this is interesting and it's a trend, and people are putting money into joint funds. Investors are putting money into funds where they're looking at investing in arts projects, although that's still emerging as art, so that's an opportunity. And saying, okay, I'm going to give you money. How is that going to impact beyond just, well, they would never get a return on their investment necessarily if it's nonprofit in the traditional way, right? So it's SROI, social return on investment. So here's an opportunity. Is that a model in a wealthy community or a community that has people with a lot of wealth and people who don't have access and equity? Could you set something like this up? Another is, or have a conversation about it. On the bottom left, multicultural, multi-generational leadership. Produce a public speaker series of important, I guess who defines that they're important, yet underrepresented perspectives of arts and culture thinkers. So I was just in Visalia, has a strong organization called, emerging organization called the Urbanist Collective. They teach youth how to find their voice in graffiti, right? Not somebody that's normally at the table. Usually somebody that's pushed away from the table. Well, in fact, they're giving voice to people in a way that's really, it's different and new, and they're creating forums. Every 2 weeks, artists come in from around the world and put up new graffiti art, and they give access to a forum that people wouldn't normally have. So, and then finally, this one goes for the full Monty. It has all three in it. Bottom right, inclusion, equity, intergenerational, multicultural, and new financial model. Okay. Offer workforce development for creative employment in economically disadvantaged communities. And actually, that's an opportunity. Are the arts even presented to students as a possibility for their career choices? Or is it something that's considered a hobby? Can you create some sort of conversation around that? Can you bring people to the table? Can you highlight people that have done careers in the arts? So these are just ideas. Our intention is to kind of get you to look in your network and beyond your network to create some sort of ripple. So, what questions do you have? Yeah. Who, what, why, how, where, when? Okay. You don't even know where to start. So, right. These are ideas. So we're not saying, here's the formula, go do this. These are just ideas because it's pretty abstract. However, I think the more that you talk with each other, you might say, you know, we have never had the chief of police sitting at the table with a substitute teacher who's been in the classroom, or with an artist, with an architect. Like, these people aren't normally talking. Could we use $7,500 to bring them together and explore a new way to collaborate, to hear voices? Could we have a panel of arts professionals come talk to a high school and say, you know, arts is a valuable and viable career. And let me tell you about my career pathway. You have the opportunity to be an arts professional as well. So it's meant to be a ripple of an idea. Yes, John.
of community, maybe a subject that's not in the mainstream media all the time. Could you use that $7,500 to get a handful of professors that are knowledgeable about a subject to come together and do a forum over at the Victoria Theater or something like that?
Yes, but they might be the usual suspects, right? So if you bring together a panel of professors and let them profess, yes, that could be, but how could you actually get voices that aren't heard? Yes. So this is what John is saying is, would you have a more competitive grant if you brought in voices that aren't normally heard? I think this is what I'm talking about when it comes to letting the idea meld a little bit. How can you get to the essence of what you're looking for? So what is the greater vision, the greater intention? What is the greater purpose? So I would start with the usual choices, and then I'd think, how can I make this a little bit unusual? How can I get other people at the table? So I was in San Diego a couple days ago, and they were saying, well, we're teaching people who don't speak English how to say to ICE officers, here are my rights, or show me this, but they do it through song, right? So a creative solution, is it the business of art? Well, it's actually taking art and just bringing it super close to people who don't have access to resources, and you're giving them a voice. And does it fit exactly? I'm just giving you an example of how people are doing things. So this could be something you're already doing. It's something you're already possibly trying, and this gives you a little more funding. Okay, this is heady. So keep thinking about it. I'm available either by email or by phone, and I'll be here to answer questions that you have. The one that's not as hard to figure out is that Cali grant. So if nothing else, remember that every month we have this grant that you can apply for to obtain professional development funds. Yes, Karen has a question.
Idea about tolerance and the what I'm thinking is it's not so much an idea applicable to Santa Barbara as it would be into places that are not tolerant. So if I got a grant and used it, let's say out of the county or something, would that be okay as long as it's in the state?
Yes, it would be in the state, and you might put on a roadshow. So how do you take your knowledge and your vision, and how do you get other people moving with it? So it's mobile.
Hi, my name's Sarah, and I work with Hannah at the Office of Arts and Culture. And as you know, we are a county division, and we also work for the city of Santa Barbara. But if you ever need help identifying a grant prospect or sort of noodling through the application, for instance, we were thrilled that the CCI was willing to come and talk with everybody. But we would always encourage you to call them because they're so nice and they know better than anybody how and what they fund. But we also want to make sure that you all know that we're here too for you with this and other grants. And if you ever need help trying to look at the 50,000-foot picture about granting or funding or arts as a business, that's really something we love to do. So please don't hesitate to call on us for that.
And their cards are available up here too. The last thing I'm going to mention is fiscal sponsorship, just because I want to get the word out about fiscal sponsorship as I'm talking to people. So how many fiscal sponsors are in this room? Okay, so we have 3 fiscal sponsors, 2 related to one organization, Kim, Julie, and Jody. Oh, no. Different, no, yes, I understand. You're all fiscal sponsors. Who here has a fiscal sponsor? They are a fiscal sponsoree, okay, a couple people. So fiscal sponsorship, and I'll have Kim, Julie, and Jody fill in if I miss anything. Fiscal sponsorship is the opportunity for you as a not nonprofit, so a for-profit LLC, sole proprietorship or LLC, to go under the umbrella of another agency that has a fiscal, that has 501c3 status. And 501c3 is the IRS determination that you're a nonprofit. So that allows you to receive donated funds. So if you're doing a book venture or you're creating an arts venture of some sort and you are looking for grants, you can create a relationship with a fiscal agent, and then funds can go through that fiscal agent and you can receive tax-deductible contributions. The challenge is you need to find an organization that has the same matching vision, well, not vision, but mission. The mission has to match, right? So you become a program of them, and you're now accountable to their board of directors, right? So by extending their umbrella over you, they're saying, we believe in what you're offering, and yes, we'll take you on, and we'll accept funds on your behalf. And then Jody was talking about that they take 7%, and organizations that they don't take it, they're processing a fee of 7%. But in that, you get all different levels of service. So some fiscal sponsors will help you with your books and help you manage your financials. They'll look at your grant applications. They always want to know what grants you're applying for because their name is on it too. So, and other organizations are like, well, you know, we're here to help you receive, but really we just believe in your mission, and that's the service that we're offering. But what you get is the ability to accept contributed income. So I wanted to mention that as a possibility because being a 501c3 is a big responsibility, and not necessarily, you know, we don't need to birth a lot more 501c3s. I personally believe in fiscal sponsorship. The idea with fiscal sponsorship is maybe someday you become a 501c3, but you don't have to. You can be under fiscal sponsorship for a long period of time. Okay, questions about fiscal sponsorship or anything you want to add as fiscal sponsors?
The concept of fiscal sponsorship is that the donor needs to have a tax deduction. And if they give it directly to you and you do not have a 501c3, they can't take a tax deduction. So what happens is the donor will grant the funds to the fiscal sponsor. The fiscal sponsor then takes their percentage and re-grants it to you. The party that is responsible for seeing that the funds are doing what they expected it to do is the fiscal sponsor. So if you don't produce, we're in trouble.
That's important. That's why you're underneath their board of directors. Okay. Any final questions that you want to ask in a forum that you think would be beneficial to other people? Burning questions that you don't want to ask on we'll talk about it in a minute. Okay, so I want to thank Sarah and Hannah for hosting CCI, Center for Cultural Innovation here. Is very generous, and the opportunity for me to come and speak with you and visit this beautiful city and meet some of the fine arts people. So I appreciate that. And I'll let Hannah have some closing statements.
So again, thank you all for coming tonight. And if you didn't sign in, if you could please make sure you do that before you leave and leave your email address, because the other thing we'd like to do is continue these conversations locally. And then we are continuing a relationship with CCI. So they'll be at our symposium, which will be in November. There'll be one here in Santa Barbara, I believe on November 2nd. Yes, so save that date, and then we'll be doing another one in North County the day before, so on the day after, November 3rd. So please save those dates. And like Sarah said, we love to be a resource for you guys. We have our grant programs that if you're not familiar with, come and meet with myself or with Sarah. And then we're always looking for new opportunities and ways to grow the arts here locally. So, and I would really like to thank Amy who reached out to offer this here. So. Thank you. And again, I know that there's such limited funding here in the county for the arts, especially if you're outside of Santa Barbara city limits. So really look to these outside organizations, whether it's CCI or the California Arts Council, and be looking for other ways to bring income into our arts organizations. So thank you all, and please try to trap Amy and ask any questions before she leaves today. So thank you all for coming.